Why the US hates the PNP but loves the JLP. Jamaica's two-party system has long shaped the island's political destiny, but when it comes to Washington, the relationship is anything but balanced. For decades, the United States has viewed the People's National Party, PNP, with suspicion and unease, while embracing the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, as a trusted partner. This isn't just about policy differences. It's about ideology, history, and a Cold War legacy that still casts a shadow today. The US has always prioritized allies that align with its economic and geopolitical interests, and in Jamaica, the JLP has fit that mold more comfortably. From the rhetoric of friendship and shared values to the tangible flow of aid and investment, the bond between Washington and the JLP has been obvious. By contrast, the PNP's flirtation with socialism and independent-minded policies has often made the US wary, if not openly hostile. But is this favoritism still alive, or is it just a relic of the Cold War era? To answer that, we need to go back to where it all began, when a young, charismatic PNP leader challenged the US vision for the Caribbean and set Jamaica on a path of confrontation with the world's superpower. Cold War beginnings, Manley versus Washington. In the early 1970s, Michael Manley, leader of the PNP and Jamaica's newly elected prime minister, ushered in a new era of democratic socialism. Manley nationalized industries, increased social spending, and, most controversially, cultivated close ties with Fidel Castro's Cuba. To Washington, this was a red flag. In the midst of the Cold War, any Caribbean nation cozying up to Havana risked being labeled a potential next Cuba. Manley believed Jamaica needed to break free from neo-colonial economic structures and chart an independent course, but these moves infuriated American business interests, especially in the lucrative bauxite industry. He raised taxes on US-owned aluminum companies, triggering capital flight and a downturn in foreign investment. The US interpreted these actions not as sovereign policymaking, but as a sign that Jamaica was slipping out of its orbit. This ideological clash set the stage for a bitter relationship. Washington viewed the PNP government as an unpredictable partner that might embolden other Caribbean nations to adopt similar socialist policies, threatening US dominance in the region. Meanwhile, Manley insisted Jamaica would not be a puppet of foreign powers, a stance that would cost him dearly in the years to come. Covert wars, CIA, aid, and elections. Behind the scenes, the US did more than simply criticize the PNP. It actively sought to undermine it. Declassified documents and testimonies suggest that the CIA funneled funds to the JLP, Jamaica's opposition party, in an effort to tilt the balance of power. American policymakers believed the PNP's socialist agenda made Jamaica vulnerable to Soviet and Cuban influence, and countering that influence became a priority. Economic pressure was another weapon. US investors pulled out, aid was limited, and Jamaica's already fragile economy suffered. Manley accused Washington of economic warfare, a charge that gained traction among his supporters as unemployment rose and social unrest intensified. The PNP found itself trapped in a cycle. The more it tried to pursue independent policies, the more the US tightened the screws. The political violence of the 1970s further poisoned relations. As tensions between PNP and JLP supporters boiled over into deadly clashes, suspicions grew that external forces were exacerbating the crisis. For many Jamaicans, it was clear that Washington had picked its favorite, and it wasn't the PNP. The Siaga Era, Washington's golden child. When Edward Seaga and the JLP won the 1980 election, US-Jamaica relations underwent a dramatic transformation. Siaga, a staunch anti-communist, aligned Jamaica closely with Washington's vision for the region. He dismantled many of Manley's socialist policies, reopened the country to foreign investment, and championed free market reforms. For the US, this was a welcome return to order. American aid and investment flowed into Jamaica like never before. Siaga's administration secured hundreds of millions in loans and development assistance, much of it tied to structural adjustments that deepened Jamaica's reliance on US economic policy. Washington lauded Siaga as a pragmatic leader who understood the importance of maintaining strong ties with the West. This special relationship cemented the perception that the U.S. favored the JLP over the PNP. While Manley's Jamaica had been portrayed as a potential rogue state, Siaga's was hailed as a loyal partner, a difference that many Jamaicans found hard to ignore. Post-Cold War dynamics, a softer approach. With the end of the Cold War, the ideological stakes of U.S. Jamaica relations shifted. The PNP, under leaders like P.J. Patterson and Portia Simpson Miller, moderated its socialist rhetoric and pursued more market-friendly policies. Washington, in turn, eased its hostility, adopting a more pragmatic approach that prioritized trade, security cooperation, and regional stability over ideological battles. Still, the old preferences lingered. U.S. officials continued to view the JLP as the more predictable ally, particularly on economic and security issues. The JLP's commitment to privatization, foreign investment, and closer ties with the U.S. made for a comfortable fit, while the PNP's legacy of independence and past alignment with Cuba remained a subtle source of distrust. In modern diplomacy, open hostility has given way to cautious engagement. The U.S. no longer overtly seeks to undermine PNP governments, but the historical memory of the Cold War still colors perceptions. For many observers, Washington's affection for the JLP and wariness toward the PNP never truly disappeared. It just became quieter. Does the bias still exist? Today, Washington insists it works equally with whichever party holds power in Kingston. Yet the legacy of decades of rivalry, covert interference, and ideological battles remains deeply embedded in the U.S. Jamaica relationship. For the PNP, that history has left an enduring sense of mistrust. No matter how much it moderates its policies, the party can never fully shake the shadow of its socialist past. For the JLP, the U.S. relationship continues to be an asset. Its leaders are often seen in Washington as reliable partners who will uphold economic liberalization and maintain alignment with U.S. strategic interests in the Caribbean. That perception translates into easier access to aid, investment, and diplomatic goodwill. So does the U.S. still hate the PNP and love the JLP? Officially, no. But history tells a different story, a story of Cold War loyalties and lasting biases that continue to shape Jamaica's political landscape long after the ideological battles were supposed to have ended.